Oh, he's not actually coming over.
He's not handing it off like that, Jeff. It's just coming to.
We don't get the Claris walk? Huh? Well, I'm sorry that production has fallen so short for you guys. I'm in control. He's Rotterdam, and you would have gotten a Claris shot, but he didn't think you deserved it, so...
You know, I was actually ready to be on camera until you walked away, and I was like, well, if Jeff walks away, we can never be on camera, but...
Then there it is.
I should have known better.
Catching me at every moment.
If Jeff walks away, then I will absolutely be on camera. Anyway, guys, we were very excited to be bringing you guys this PvP series. SOS versus Deer. You know, it's really funny to me, Jeff, that Linak was sitting in the interview with Soons. He's like, yeah, I have actually no idea why I never did this before, because it really doesn't seem that hard. That is because if you make it through the upper bracket, it really kind of seems like, what's the big deal? You win 3 best-of-3s in a row. The moment you drop a series, you suddenly have to play a bunch of additional series, and you go up against top players with your tournament live on the line. That's just a very different feeling. The loser of this series is out. He's done.
These guys are both BlizzCon champions?
No, Deer is not a BlizzCon champion, but he did win GSL Code S, and back then he won WCS Season 3.
He beat Jaedong to lose in the finals, right?
No, he lost to Jaedong. Jaedong lost to SOS.
Okay. All I remember is that someone beat Jaedong, and then my mind turned to just red.
Yeah, no, Jaedong won in the finals against SOS, but Jaedong had that legendary Burrow moment, you know, with the Zerglings and the, I want to say Crypt Fiends, but it's a different...
Crypt Fiends? That would be quite the trick to pull. No, this is a PvP for the ages. We tried to get you guys Todd to commentate this one, but he is just too patooted out of this. You need to take a little bit of a break. But you got us instead. The top left-hand side on Cyber Forest, it's the blue Protoss, Deer.
Obviously, I meant roaches. I don't know why my mind
Crypt Fiends, yeah.
Crypt Fiends. I mean, Warcraft 3 stuff.
Why not?
Both great games. In the right bottom side, we're looking at the man who won this tournament, aside from winning BlizzCon as well. It's the one and only SOS.
Somewhere out there, Artosis is white-knuckling his table as he watches this match, knowing how important it is for SOS to somehow find a way out of here, but even winning this doesn't get you out. You have a whole nother match to go, possibly against Keen.
Or Clem.
Or maybe Clem.
Yep. That is kind of nice. We obviously had 2 Zergs qualify for the group stage through the upper bracket of bracket number 1. Obviously earlier today, Linok and Ragnarok both made it. But now we're guaranteed of either a Protoss or a Terran, so that's nice. At least we don't have to start a bracket with 3 extra Zergs, Jeff.
It's just so amazing always, of course, to see those Zergs overcome what's going on right now. And to utilize the Nidus the way they have, it's just been so creative.
I love Linok's interview. He's like, yeah, I was just going for a fun series.
He's like, you know what, we're both weird. Let's just have a fun series playing for $400,000 cash prize pool. It's like,
I was like, now
what a nice guy Lenok is, you know?
Yeah, Unitas in game 1 and Unitas in game 2. I don't really know if this is SOS's definition of fun.
Whenever Zerg Nidus is me, I'm like, this guy just wants to have fun. Look at the 2 of us just giggling about. Anyways, it is going to be SOS dropping that pylon outside of his base. Now, Deer's in the base right now, and he will hang out for a while, or he should at least. There's no reason to leave.
This is kind of cool, actually, because Deer is scouting. Now, there is only 1 pylon, right? And he's probably going to stick around a little bit longer.
And there could be... And he's like, a pylon now would not be the latest, but if you don't build a pylon, to your point, Rotterdam, then it becomes very weird.
I mean, it is already weird, right? Because now you basically need extra free supply. So now Deer might be like, oh my god, I got him, you know, he's proxy targeting me, but SOS is like, nah, mind games. I'm not.
And he is, you're exactly right. He literally is going Stalker Sentry off those gateways, so it is not anything weird at all. The pylon is just that, a mind game at this point in time.
Yep.
What I love about Deer, though, is he's absolutely hanging out. He's like, what are your chronoboosts going to be? Are you waiting until I leave to do something? But nothing is there, so now he's going to leave.
I always like it when I still see top Protoss players, and obviously Deer is one of them, opening up with the 2 adepts, because I do believe in general that the Stalker Sentry opening is better, don't get me wrong, or even a double Stalker opening I also think is superior, but I still love my adepts, I just love opening up with them, I love having some early map presence, and every now and then, you know, you roll that dice, Jeff, and you somehow you end up in the main base, and you just win. And you kill 5 probes, yeah exactly, and they often leave. So I'm always happy to see there are still some top players out there opening up with the 2 adepts.
Kind of especially now, which is funny to your point, Rotterdam, right? Because it has fallen a little bit by the way. So it used to be always open up 2 adepts, but now, like you said, there's multiple different openings that you will go for. This probe will get picked off. Now, what's kind of funny about this for SOS, by the way, this is a little bit of the Dario in us. You already faked the proxy. The timing's going to... And this is actually that next tier, by the way, right? Because, like, there is no proxy. Nothing showed up. So now this is a late Dark Shrine. It's going to come down after the Nexus. And that timing is just a little bit off kilter. Now, if you're at home and you're like, well, I'm going to steal this for the ladder, it will not work as well for you on the ladder. It just simply won't. But these two players are such top-tier players that have faced each other in finals that off-timing stuff can work.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where this goes. Obviously, this is already a bit bizarre to see 5-6 adepts is not that uncommon. But to see this many adepts followed up by a robotics facility, that I find a little bit more weird already, because normally it's like Adept Phoenix, right? Because those units go kind of well together. And then obviously you can shade on top of a Stalker and you can maybe pick off a couple as well. It's very important that SOS obviously keeps the door shut, because this is a few too many Adepts to leave into your main base. That's a big wall off.
Yeah, you really walled that off. Yeah. But you know what's funny about that, Kevin, is if it is just a shield barrier, they can actually knock that down.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's 6 Adepts. Very good point.
Needed the Cybernex Corp. It's a big one, but it's the right call. Now, DTs are going to be a factor here in a moment. And in fact, the Cybernex Corp is being allowed to live a little bit because it has the extra health as time goes on. So there's no reason to cancel and restart over again. And it's also an expensive cancel. But here comes the Dark Templar. And off that Robo, it is just an Immortal right now. I don't believe there's an Observer.
There is one, but is he sending it to the other side of the map? That is the big question. Nope, he's not. He's keeping it at home. It seems like Deer is perhaps worried about this, and I think that's an excellent call. This is so sweet. He can force field in those Dark Templars as well. Now, obviously, he could morph into an Archon, but then he's still gonna not be able to go anywhere. This is beautiful. Force field? No, he's gonna chase it with the Adepts. Can the Observer keep up with the Dark Templar? They're like dull vision now. Wow.
Dunked on him. Nicely done. Now, the good news is for SOS, of course, it was just 2 Dark Templar. 2 still very expensive, don't get me wrong. But it could have been like 3 or 4, and they all would have died. They all would have done nothing there. So it's nice that it went this way.
That is true, but this is still pretty disastrous because he's also investing in a Dark Shrine, right? And that's obviously not cheap, and you got a couple workers here and there. If I'm there right now, I'm feeling really good. Yep. And if I'm SOS, I'm like, all right, I'm going to need something to bring me back in this game.
And he is going to go for a faster charge upgrade here with that Warp Prism first off the Robo. But I do have to agree with you. Deer's position is just so much better. He's got that +1 attack already queued up. His composition's not like super amazing, but he's getting out additional Immortals. There's the Twilight Council synced up very well with that +1 attack. So both players, you know, definitely good for Deer, but SOS, you can't count him out, right? He gets so aggressive and weird that he can get back into this easily.
How many Observers does Deer have right now? Still just one. I love this, by the way. If I would have one Observer, there would be a DT in my natural, on my army, and in the main base at the same time. And I'm like,
of course.
How did this happen? Deer is getting a cannon now, and obviously I think that's a very wise decision. When you know your opponent already has a Dark Shrine, you know you're in a good position, you can absolutely afford to invest into a cannon. Yeah, SOS is probably going to follow this up with like some Warp Prism play into the main base, but if there is a cannon there, I mean, Deer does not have Blink, so it's kind of hard to pick off that Prism. But he still shouldn't take too much damage.
You know what, though? Never underestimate 4 DTs dropped anywhere, right? Like, even if there is a cannon, even the 2 DTs can drop the cannon without a shield battery, so it's quite scary. It is going to be 6 gateways for Deer. Now, a lot of times I talk about this and say, well, he's going to go for an all-in, but sometimes you go production, then 3rd Nexus. I'm not seeing him line up for that play.
Come on, kill that probe. He could have killed that probe 3 times. Instead, he's going to go for this pylon that is going to unpower these 4 gates, but these 4 gates are not done yet, so it looks a little more disastrous than what it would normally be.
Kevin, can we have a moment of honesty here?
Yeah.
When you kill the pylon that's warping in gateways, did you know they continue to build anyways?
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair, Kevin?
I don't know if it's fair, but I lost a game against it once because I unpowered a building Dark Shrine, and I thought now we can never warp in DTs. And then
finished anyways.
And then 25 seconds later, I lost against 4 DTs, and I'm like, what? And people are like, lol, how do you not know that? I was like, I actually don't know why I didn't know that, but lesson learned, you know?
Let us just say this right now. Roddy and I, as 2 of the ambassadors of Protoss, we think they should stop warping in. I think that would make Terrans very happy.
Only a single shield battery here. I mean, this is going to get a little bit wild. Deer is active with a Warp Prism on the other side of the map, but SOS is just going for it. And this is a really sick engagement for SOS.
Yep. Oh my goodness. He's going to pull the probes. They're not doing much. They're getting funneled, and the Archons are just slamming them. Supplies now in favor of SOS. It's tackling quite well for him.
This is a terrible fight for Deer. He just ate so many full shots. He only had a single shield battery. He really didn't have the units. I don't know if he's harassing on the other side of the map. I think he is because he's killing some units. But yeah, Dark Templars can always shut this down as well. I think Deer just lost.
He might have just lost. And this is going to be one of those games he's going to really wish he had back. Another Archon low in health there. It's about to die. Both Archons do die, and now there is the hold. But still, wow, actually, I'm about to do my caster thing. But if you look, they're actually, it's this, the worker supply gives me pause, but army supply favors Deer.
Yep, no, he barely held there in the end. It looked very rough when these Archons were still alive, but the extra 4 or 5 Zealots really bought the time that he needed. And obviously those gateways were finally finishing up as well. And don't forget about the upgrades, guys. Now, SOS does have his own +1. I think Deer still have a Prism as well. I mean, maybe in a way this is still kind of even. SOS is economically ahead, but Deer is obviously ahead by a full upgrade, and that's a pretty big deal as well.
Armies are close, but as you said, Deer with that upgrade advantage, not bad. The worker advantage is a pretty big deal in mirror matchups, and it's not really moving here. Deer is just making one-ish probe at a time, whereas SOS is going to spend all his money on additional army.
I think that's one of those moments where you're kind of in shock, where you feel like you're playing a really clean game, and suddenly you're like, whoa, did I just almost lose there? And it definitely got very, very close. I don't know how you feel about these fights when it comes to like Archons, Immortals, and Zealots, but it just feels like once the fight starts bad for you, there's no way out. Like if you just run, you're just eating extra shots. Oh, this War Prism of Deer. That's painful.
You know, and one of the things about to talk about too is actually for Stalkers, it seems like a little point, but it's true. At this point in time, it's actually kind of dead weight. Like in the fight, they're very bad. Unless you just run your War Prism directly into them, and it's like, well, they're worth their weight in gold. Oh, but to your point, yeah. No, those battles are kind of interesting, and I love watching players of SOS and Deer's caliber because they make all the small choices that are correct, that maximize the damage output of those armies.
Like, it really feels that instead of running, if Deer would have just stood there immediately and fight and then swap in extra units, I think that would have probably gone a little bit better for him than him retreating, and his Archons were... Obviously, the moment you run away, your army goes a little bit closer to each other because all of your units try to get to a certain point, and that means that units are clumped up, and then the Archons of SOS in this case were getting the full splash damage over the possible units they could have reached.
What I like about what you just said is it's hypothetical. I don't disagree with you, but there's so much damage output right off the bat that you have like 2 seconds to make your call, and then once you do, you have to go with it. So here's that fight again at the top of the ramp.
3 shield batteries this time,
3 shield batteries and 3 Archons just piling in that AoE damage going up the ramp. SOS trying to force his way up here. I don't think he can do it. Meanwhile, the Adepts of Deer are just clobbering the mineral line. They get 9 probes. And now Deer's the one with the probe lead.
Yep, no, that was a magnificent hold for Deer. He had 3 shield batteries, but he didn't even really need them. This time he was just well positioned, had his units spread out. He's like, you want to run into my Archons, that's fine, but the Archons are ready. This War Prism is going to go down as well. Maybe he can recall these. I think you have to recall this, right?
He had to have recalled before going after the Zealot, I think.
Okay,
well, as I say that, he's just kind of doing more. He gets both of that?
No, one is going to go down.
All right, interesting. Not bad. Supplies now again shifted in favor of Deer.
Close game. This game's been so messy. I mean, that Adapter Res was obviously magnificent during that hold, but that was a little stubborn as well by SOS. I feel like you see this quite often in Korean PvPs where they're like, I want to attack.
I'm going up.
I'm going up. Yep. I'm going in. It's like, I don't care how many
batteries Captain, it's pretty well defended up there. It's like, I don't care. We're going, boys. Shut your yapping. We're doing it.
This was the plan all along. Stick to the plan. It's like, well...
I think Patience is very famous for that. You've never seen a guy more stubborn with an attack. He's like, no. I had it in my mind 4 minutes ago. We're doing it now. They're going to check and see. There is no third. There's that kind of pylon that the staging point was thinking about. Here he goes. Yeah, just walking up the ramp. With Archons, you can break the force fields, of course, so there is an exit there. But
this ramp looks so much bigger than this because of that tree, right? It's like, oh, actually, I've got space to go up that ramp. And then it's like, no, actually...
Was there detection there? Was there, though?
He has an observer, but I don't know where it is. Where's the observer?
I think he got scared back. Yeah, okay.
Could have done some damage.
I like it, though. He's like, you're warping and stuff. You must have something. I'm out of here. Okay. Third bases are now being thought of here. And again, supply is very even. This is like a TVT almost, and how much damage has gone back and forth.
I was about to make the joke, but the only difference is in a TVT, we'd be on 5 bases and 74 SUVs. And
and everything's on fire.
Yeah. Everything is floating, everything is on fire, we're scanned sensor towers. And in PvP, it's like, you have 37 workers, I've got 35. And I'm thinking about going up to 3 bases, if you're okay with it.
While attacking you and dropping you and hoping to win the game. Here we go. Pushing across. Both army compositions very similar. And now we do have Deer going for that 3rd attack upgrade. That's going to be pivotal. That's a pretty big deal to have a full upgrade advantage when your army composition is very similar, but also there's so much damage output right off the bat.
Look at the pylons. Oh my goodness. Yes, Observer. He's showing us. Those are 2 very, very juicy pylons.
What do you call them?
I don't know.
It's not the
Artosis.
Is it the Artosis
I think
pylon?
it's the Artosis pylon.
Fair enough. Oh wow, it shuts down all those buildings.
That's why we call it the Artosis pylon.
And there's another one.
It's gonna go down as well. That's -8 gateways. And SOS is like, you know what? I wanted to attack. I'm gonna attack. 8 gateways.
I love that this is something. You know what? We'll be casting StarCraft II on our moon bases in 2033, and we'll still be like, Why is there one pylon there? Why?
But this is not
Look at
one
this.
pylon powering 2 gates. No, it's powering 4 gateways. He's just
Archon
lost
not as
all
cool.
8 gateways. Killing the cannon would actually be pretty sick. I don't know if there's an observer here at home.
Kevin, Deer's winning this with an immortal drop.
Yeah,
He just won this with an immortal drop.
because there's barely any anti-air and he just lost power to it.
Toodaloo. Just leaving. And he has to kill a gateway to get out of that base.
He recalled his Archons
Yeah.
and they got stuck.
As they are wont to do. And now the Immortals are very powerful because there's just not a whole lot of anti-air here. A lot of times you could afford a Stargate or something like that, but they're both on 2 bases, guys.
Flying above 5 Archons with 2 Immortals inside of it. 1 Immortal does
What a
get
huge
out.
mistake!
That is kind of a weird fight. Look at all the Zealots.
They just evaporated!
Look at all the Zealots behind the Archons as well. They're all trapped there. I mean, they're still in a good spot because his army is simply stronger and he's richer, but that was a pretty ugly way to start this fight.
Yeah, he's going to hand it over at the bottom of the ramp. The Archon's over, but again, a good spread for SOS. He's way down in supply, so I do think he's getting whittled down here. But it's just such an ugly back and forth. I think the determining factor, though, is that it's advanced into the game. Their mains are drying up, their naturals are drying up. So where do you rebuild from here? You really can't. So if you win this fight, you win the game.
That was not a pretty fight by Deer, guys, but the numbers were in his favor, the upgrades were in his favor. It seems like it's gonna be enough. Now suddenly 2 more Archons show up, but a couple of Zealots are about to show up as well. And I think that's gonna be enough here for Deer to take the 1-0 lead after I think scrappy is an understatement to describe game 1.
It's just weird. If he had shield batteries up here, I'd think he maybe holds, but everything's so depleted. There is no shield batteries. It is +3 attack for Deer. He's got the supply, and he's going to have for himself a round number 1 win here. SOS taps out. Deer's going to take that first one. Not quite scrappy, like you said. Maybe it's a little bit of a mud fight, right? They just kind of both got in there and got dirty.
Dirty and fun, though. That was a pretty fun game. I think especially for Deer in the end, Deer's probably like, I had the greatest start ever. There is nothing better than feeling like you have a strong economic opening, you don't lose any units, then 2 Dark Templars walk in there when you have an observer sitting there. You're like, well, thank you,
thank
sir.
you very much.
That's so generous. I actually really like this game at this point. Then I think the first surprise really caught him off guard because which madman just runs into a natural on Cyber Forest, where it's actually kind of hard to get in there. And SOS was very close, I think very, very close to winning that game. But obviously he had to go for some defensive warp-ins because Deer was harassing his mineral line and SOS didn't feel like losing all of his probes. But maybe he should have been okay with that. Maybe he should have just warped in more units on the other side of the map and really just tried to end it.
Well, to your point, Roddy, it was literally 2 Adepts. So
that was a little
2
bit
Adepts
later.
grabbed a whole bunch of units.
Okay, you think those were the same things that he warped in?
At the natural.
Well, then they got a lot of work done because they survived like multiple phases. But overall, I must say, I do feel that SOS was too stubborn in this game. Like the first attack, somehow it almost worked. Okay, kudos. But then to try it again the second time against 3 shield batteries and like 4 Archons perfectly positioned, you got to know better than that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of one of those, I hate to use this cliche, and I use it quite a bit, but it's just live by the sword, die by it. I mean, SOS goes up those ramps and is just going to catch, I mean, he was behind this game, right, to your point. But then because he was so strangely brazen about that first attack, he almost won the game right there. So I hear you, and I don't disagree. I just think that that's how SOS does his thing. He's like, hey, man, I can attack you at any time. You think you're safe because I shouldn't be doing this, but I will run right up that ramp and try to win the game.
Pretty crazy scenario, though. SOS right now has to win 2 games in a row. Otherwise, this will be the end for him already. In the open bracket, on the very first day of the Into Extreme Masters Katowice, he was lifting the trophy here in 2014. But these brackets are evil.
They're ridiculous.
There's no other way to put it. I mean, I see players that are like 6.7k MMR and they go home after playing 2 series.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of talking about this, and I'll be the guy that says it, but they're a little bit of like the rodeo clown, right? Like Kerr is like an actual top-tier European Protoss, but here he's like an afterthought. We're like, oh yeah, nice of you to show up. But it's just the way it is. I mean, Mana actually, as well earlier, kind of dealing with his own difficulty here. He says he lost to 2 players that retired, but who are those players? Lenok and Snoot. It's like, well, anybody can lose to them. They're very, very good.
It is really brutal. I mean, even Fantasy went out in the second round. At least he still walks away with $600, but I mean, that's just, it's a lot of very big names dropping so early. Of course, SOS, I think, would be the biggest name. He's not out yet. Then again, with Deer, I just don't know what kind of a Deer are we dealing with. In 2012, arguably the best Protoss Horde player in the world by default, but or was that 2013? Excuse me. I think 2013 it was. But after that, it's a little hit or miss. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he is unrecognizable.
These players are our gladiators out here fighting it up and battling for the honor of being the Katowice champion, or even just getting further in this tournament. In the lower left-hand side, it's the Blue Protoss leading 1-0. Deer.
Representing Newbie. Looks cool.
And not the kind of deer that you find in the forest, but the deer that you start a letter with, Kevin.
Deer. On the right top side of New Repuck Nancy, we're looking at the main base of our 2014 champion of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. It is SOS.
What a tough path he has. And I think it was you that was talking about this earlier, but if you get knocked in that lower bracket, this tournament becomes a completely different animal. Like Leanock's like, that was quite easy. All I did was win 3 best-of-3s against world-class players. But if you get knocked in that lower bracket, you're fighting twice as many matches, all still against world-class players. And SOS was almost able to drag that game back in game 1. It was a great game, except for, I mean, there's a few moves, but for me, it was the double immortal shutting down all production.
No, you're right.
Picking off something like 10 to 12 probes and just dragging the game back in Deer's favor, and he never let go.
On powering 8 gateways is such a sick move to make as well, because at that point you force your opponents to react to it immediately. Otherwise, even someone like SOS is going to float 2,000 minerals, not because he's not capable of spending his money, but because he simply can't. I mean, what are you going to do? Queue up 5 Immortals in your Robo? It's simply not an option. I think even the Robo.
Well, the other part that's so strong about it too that we don't talk a whole lot about, but when it's unpowered, the cooldown on the gateways actually freezes. So if you did a production cycle, it does not resume kind of reclocking until you repower those gateways. So you can actually be behind several production cycles until you get the power back up.
So, obviously a very, very big series here for SOS. I think one thing about making it to the run of 24, may not mention it before, you get $2,000 guaranteed. That's obviously awesome for players, so you know that you didn't came here for nothing.
Right.
Even though if you lose early in the bracket, you still get some money, like it goes up 600, 800. But it's also the possibility to play 5 more series guaranteed in that big round-robin group stage in the round of 24. It's exposure, but it's also just, there is less pressure, right? Because not everything comes down to 1 best-of-3,
right?
Which is what's currently the case for these two.
Here's the other side of this too, Roddy, that we don't talk a whole lot about, but at Katowice, if you're playing in the open bracket, you or your team sent you here, actually. You're not sent by Blizzard, you're not paid the way by ESL, so there's a whole heck of a lot more on the line. If you think of a player like Fantasy, like you said, he got $600 or something like that, cool, but he or his team or whatever flew him out here, they bought a hotel. So some of these events, it's nice because the publisher or the company is able to kind of front the bill for you, so you're playing for honor and prize pool. But some of these other ones, like this one, it's just too big of a prize to not be a part of. That's why this open bracket's so stacked, but at the same time, it's higher stakes. It's very difficult.
SOS just going with the Dark Shrine again, Jeff, in game 2. Now, obviously, I think things look a little bit better here, technically. I like the way he positioned his Stalkers, even though he's down a Stalker, so now he has to run. But he got the first kill.
Do you like
really
it?
Wants to get the second one. I don't like that he's chasing that one.
Do you like it?
I don't like that chase. The chase is pointless to me. But he is dragging him away from his main base, so potentially keeps the Dark Shrine hidden. But yeah, these Stalkers are a little bit in trouble. I think the best thing SOS can hope for is regenerate shields a little bit and recall them home.
Good call. And he is able to create that space and do that. And I'm actually very surprised the 2 Stalkers made it back, because honestly, there's not a crazy scenario where he loses all 3 of them based off of his positioning that way, but he is able to get there just fine. And now it is just that Oracle making its way across the map, but only just now. So there is no second Oracle even queued up.
Nope, and no robotics facility either. So if that Oracle just uses Pulsar Beam almost immediately, it's gonna be a Phoenix, but yeah, he's waiting for the Nexus. Nexus is almost done. He sends the Oracle home. Did he pick up on something?
And he's building a Robo?
Maybe he saw that there were no probes
and he's building sentries? I think he knows.
Yep. I mean, it's one of those things where he didn't see it, but he does know. He's gonna lose these 2 at depths, but he does pick off at least 2 probes. I mean, that's not even that bad of a trade. I don't know if he saw the Dark Shrine there. He got very close.
Amazing instincts by Deer, though.
Oh, he got both. 1 Revelation, and he tagged both Dark Templars. I mean, obviously, there was potentially a second wave detection on the way soon, and there was quite a bit of energy, but that's still massive. That's a mistake by SOS, though. As good as it was by Deer, that is a mistake by SOS.
Yeah, and he is able to get the second DT out there so that it won't go fully punished, but the instincts of Deer, by the way, like you said, he just pulls up to the natural, sees a lack of probes, instantly says the danger of DT here is too great, and goes back and has that reaction that he did. He took 0 damage again.
Yeah,
you could say, you could do the bunny ears to say the damage was additional sentries, which aren't super great, the Robo's Force, the second orbital, yada yada. But the fact is, this is a Dark Shrine that as of now has done nothing. It's way better for Deer.
And Dark Templars are not cheap either, so you're obviously investing in trying to get those units out as quickly as possible. You're always hoping for more, guys. Like, you're not hoping for 20 probes, or maybe you do, but you know that's not realistic. But getting 4 or 5 and seeing your opponent having to pull probes away, these 2 Adepts are going to make their way into the main base. 2 Stalkers have almost no DPS. That means that Deer should be able to get like 4 or 5 probes here once again. Yeah, now he can't fight because there is a shield battery, so he settles for 4.
Still fantastic at this stage of the game. He was already ahead in workers, and now he's just up 7 workers, which again is not game over territory because of course SOS has nowhere else to go, but it is not looking good.
And look at the difference in upgrades, by the way. +1, more than halfway done for Deer. Forge only now finishing up for SOS.
Yep. SOS adding additional gateways. He's got a warp prism. That might even be a second warp prism.
And there was one fake prism. This prism is a hallucinated warp prism.
Yep, so he's got a real one coming up behind it.
He loves the hallucinated warp prism. He used it in the PvZ against Solar, and people were like, oh my god, that's genius. I'm like, I think it backfired because he forced Solar to make units. But
yeah.
This one is just obviously to scale and maybe to scare Deer a little bit. But I don't think Deer is that scared right now. I really don't think he is. Deer is like, this has been going pretty freaking awesome for me.
Yep.
I'm getting probes with all of the Adepts that I've sent in. I once again took 0 damage from you, Dark Templars, and I know for a fact that my upgrades are ahead of yours.
And that is the case. They're heading towards the same army composition here again, both adding a lot of gateways. Now, it's a little bit weird, but again, SOS is so aggressive that maybe Deer is kind of forming himself a little bit to SOS. I mean, it's not like Deer's not aggressive either, but he's definitely a guy that will go a little bit more the distance.
6 Scout, I mean, the Oracle just sees the Warp Prism there. There's a couple of Stalkers as well to high-five this Warp Prism. Deer is playing very, very clean, and SOS is probably feeling like he cannot catch a break in this best of 3 so far. Where once again, his tournament life is on the line, guys. If SOS loses this map, he's out. It's over.
Now, that being said, the difference is, you know, it's not super mega big in favor of Deer, right? Like, he's ahead in upgrades. They're about to be even, though, so if they fight in that time, then that advantage is null and void. But if you look at this, workers, only 3 difference, and army supplies slightly in favor of SOS. Now, SOS is going to come into attack again, and there is a stasis ward.
Yeah, it's very important that Deer puts his Archon in the front, by the way. He only has a single shield battery here, but if this is how they fight, this is a very awkward position with Deer's army. Deer, you need to position those units a bit better. This stasis trap gets a couple of probes, which is nice and all, but the Archon is in the back, and that's not where you want your Archon to be.
No, it's getting some damage in there, though, as the Zealots are coming forward. Both players kind of ferrying the wounded back in the back line. The Immortal doing pretty good damage there. Supplies still, again, fairly similar, slightly in favor of SOS. The Archon is exposed. It almost dies immediately, gets picked up and pulled back on 1 health. But SOS able to chomp through the front lines here. The unit's so wounded for Deer, but he might be able to hold on just for a moment.
Wow, the Immortals still carry so much value, even though they're low on HP. They just stayed out of range there. Once again, that was a good save by Deer.
Oh, the whole mirror is frozen.
Yep, they're still not doing anything. The second stage trap apparently was a little bit bigger than the first one. I mean, Deer holds there. It was once again not a pretty start to the fight, but the mid-game micro was awesome by Deer.
Jeez, and I'll tell you again, once again, Deer survives that fight with an Archon on 1 health and like 2 Immortals on a collective 45 or something like that. It was not much more to go, and he would have had his back broken there, but he is able to hold on, like Roddy said, with just such fantastic micro. And the defender's advantage. So SOS, once again, taking a disadvantaged situation, just being so good at attacking, they almost won right there.
I mean, it's really funny how Immortals work against Archons, right? Because in general, you think Archons and Zealots are really good against Immortals, which they are. But at one point, when the units start dwindling down, then the Immortals only carry so much value because it has bigger range than the Archons. And at this point, the Archons have been saved a couple of times. Yeah, you gotta be careful there.
Sorry, Roddy, but the Archons are getting exposed. They're at the front lines here a little bit. If they actually get on top of that, it could be bad. But the army supply advantage is in favor of Deer going into the fight, and now he's collapsing on top of this. Some of these units, still wounded, and it's just too much. He's depowered the production in the back. He's losing probes. SOS down 30 supply. That is gonna be it. He is out of here, and Deer will advance 2-0. Once this game concludes, there it is. SOS is out.
kudos to Deer. I think he played very well. I mean, that second game, I think that really showed it all. When in the beginning, he didn't see it all, but he saw more than enough. He's like, I know what's happening. I'm going to be ready for this. And both games, I think it's really the upgrades that carry through. Because a couple of the engagements were not necessarily fantastic, but just because his openings were so solid, he got himself in good positions, he got ahead in upgrades, and that's apparently all that Deer needed in this best of 3.
Just laughing here because they're just having a nice little embrace. They're all talking. I think it's Hero there with them, but SOS just said, yeah, I'll take your chair. Don't worry about that. You can stand here. You just won. Fantastic series. Really nice there. I think we're going to head to a commercial break and then come back with an interview between Smix and Deer. But don't go anywhere, guys. More awesome action coming your way. We'll see you in a few moments.